Hello, everybody. السلام عليكم. مساء الخير ورمضان كريم على جميع الحضور. مستر وشاح. السلام عليكم. نيابة عن كل الحضور، نحن بدينا على اللايف. مستر وشاح، ممكن تعمل لنفسك أميوت منك الشبكة شكل سيئة. السلام عليكم. بدعوة كريمة من الجمعية السودانية للبحث الطبي SMRA، وبالتعاون مع مبادرة الباحثين السودانيين وجمعية سدرة للبحوث، ندعوكم إن شاء الله اليوم في ويبينار مشترك إن شاء الله في البحث العلمي Planning to publish your research in high impact journal. إن شاء الله حيقدم لنا جريس من المملكة المتحدة، هو منسق التدريب توب إديتين، وله أكثر من 280 ورقة منشورة في مجلات محكمة، وأيضا عمل في التحكيم في مجلات عالمية، منها مجلات عالمية. وإن شاء الله نديه فرصة. مستر جريس، how are you?
Hello, this is Gareth. So
sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. So I hope you can see me. I hope you can hear me. Should I start this presentation? Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to do this. And let me start by thanking everybody for the invitation to give this presentation this evening. It's always been my dream to visit Sudan, to visit Khartoum, to visit your country, and now I have the chance, like virtually, to present this evening to our colleagues and to everybody listening to this remotely. And so thank you once again for the opportunity to do this. I know we have colleagues listening from all over the world, Sudan, Middle East, Saudi Arabia, even Kazakhstan. Big Aisha, good evening. So we will get started. I will present this afternoon, this evening, on behalf of EDANS, company that I work for, planning your research to publish in high impact journals. So Gareth Dyke is my name. You can get in touch with me at any time after, during, subsequent to this presentation by having a look at the links on this slide that you see in front of you. Now, EDANS is the name of our company. We have lots and lots and lots of educational resources and content that you can access by having a look at the links on this slide. So that's something that we'll set up for all of the participants in this training this evening. You will have access for an unlimited time to all of our resources on our website. Our company provides training, learning training, English language writing and publishing training, as well as a number of tools, manuscript tools, writing tools, journal selection tools that you can access by having a look at the links on this slide. And don't worry, I know I'm speaking in English, and you will, I'm sure, have access to a recording of this presentation at the end of our event this evening, but I will also send a copy of the slides to everybody registered for this event as well. So you can feel free to get in touch with me afterwards to ask any questions that you may have, and have a look at the slides and at the content of this presentation afterwards as well. I worked in the UK, I worked in the United States, in New York, I worked in Ireland. That explains my English accent. I worked in Southampton, and now I work in Hungary. I've published 280, 290 academic articles, some of which in leading journals like Nature, like Science, and some review papers, book chapters, which actually turned out to be the more highly cited of my research papers over the years. So our goal, our aim, what we hope to do with presentations like this and others is to help colleagues around the world, in Sudan, in Kazakhstan, in other parts of the world, to write and publish more effectively in English. That's the goal of what we do. That's how we hope to help colleagues with presentations like this. So let's get started. Let's begin with our presentation this evening by starting off by saying that you can learn to communicate more effectively in English. You can learn, it's a skill, it's not a talent. You wouldn't get into a car and just start to drive. You wouldn't get onto a bike and just start to ride around. You wouldn't start to play a musical instrument. You can learn from those who have gone before. You can learn to communicate more effectively in English, and you can learn to get your work published in leading international journals. That's the goal of our presentation this evening: impact and understanding the process of developing a research project and then getting it successfully published in a leading international journal. You can improve your writing. You can learn how to get your research published in international journals. We're here to help. Again, EdAnts, have a look at our websites. Get in touch with me after this presentation. We are here always to help you with your research, writing, and publishing journey, with your experiences of international publishing. Now, let's begin by thinking about why. Why is it that you want to get your work published? And actually, your motivations, your reasons for getting your work published are often quite different from the reasons that editors at international journals want to see papers published. Have a look at this chart survey work that we collected. Authors, researchers like you, like me, we care about the fact that our paper gets read, gets downloaded by other colleagues. We care that our papers get cited by other colleagues, and we care that our work gets an impact outside of academia, whereas journal editors, workers at Nature, big international journals, papers get downloaded. They care that papers get cited. They don't care all that much about whether the work they publish has an impact outside of that particular subject area. So authors care about different things. Authors want different things from the publishing experience than editors and peer reviewers necessarily do. So that's important to keep in mind at the beginning of the process when you begin to think about putting a research paper together. And we also know from talking to publishers, from talking to journals around the world, that excellent research is being submitted to international journals. There's no reason, of course, why work being done by Big Aisha in Kazakhstan or by, colleagues in Sudan is any different in quality from the work, the research being done in any other country. It's just that often English can prove to be an issue when getting work published in international journals. International publishers often reject our research because of issues such as papers outside the journal scope. For example, plagiarism, incorrect formatting, recycled submissions, reviewer responses, and English. So one of the main reasons that we hope to help international colleagues is, of course, with the English writing and communication process, helping you to plan your research projects and helping you to get your research projects published in those international journals. Often, unfortunately, research gets rejected from big international journals because the English language is not up to standard. So I'd like to start by encouraging you to think about what kind of writer you are with your English language. What kind of way do you put together your English? Are you a watercolorist, an architect, a bricklayer, a sketcher, an oil painter? How do you feel when you get faced with a difficult writing task in English? You should be like Arnold. You should be like Mr. Schwarzenegger. You should be a bricklayer. You should think about the structure of your writing in English before you start. You shouldn't just sit down at your computer, as many people do, and start to hammer away blindly. You should plan your writing before you begin. So how do you start writing? Do you carefully construct a plan before you begin? Because you should. You need a plan, you need a structure for your writing before you begin that process. And so again, we're here to help. I would encourage everybody listening to this to think before they begin the writing process of an academic paper, to think about their message, their audience, who are you writing the paper for, and the structure. It will help you so much in your English writing to have those three things thought about before you begin the process: your message, your audience, and your structure. And of course, you can learn from the mistakes that other people have made in the past. You can learn from people who've come before. That's what we do. We provide training in writing and publishing. We edit hundreds of thousands of papers every year in English. So we can help you. We can teach you about the kinds of mistakes that people tend to make in English before they begin that writing process. So if you struggle writing in English, I encourage you to think in English. Don't translate in your head. Try to think in English and write as you think. Try to do it every day. Try to write little and often. Work with papers that you like and respect in your own field. Plan those articles for publication in high impact journals by looking at papers in your own field already published in high impact journals in that area. Have a look at how international colleagues write and put their papers together. That's how you can manage the process much more effectively. And if you translate, if you choose to translate from your own language, from Arabic into English, let's say, please, please, please find a subject area specialist who can help you with that translation process. But far better, and I know it's difficult in a second language, third language, fourth language, but try to find somebody who can help you and try to think in English and write a little bit every day if you can to get your papers sorted out into English. This is, of course, very, 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 very important because there's about 2 million papers published every year in English in the international literature. There's about 30,000 papers published every month in English in the international literature. So how are you going to stand out? How are you going to get your papers memory? How are you going to make sure that people remember your papers? How are you going to ensure that your work gets into those leading journals? It's so, so, so important to strategize, to plan your writing, to think about how your work will be standing out from the crowd. That's what we're talking about in this presentation. That's how you can think about developing a message for your academic work. So we train PhD students in the UK, for example, to think about what their message is. You've done some research, you've completed a project. How are you going to explain the message of that research project, the take-home message, as we say in English, the key thing that you want people to remember from your paper to your grandmother. Here's a picture of my grandmother back in England. Here's a picture of a bus driver. How are you going to explain your research results to people who don't understand your own subject area? This is a key skill to develop because, of course, being broad, being multidisciplinary, discovering how you can make your research applicable to lots of people outside of your own specific, tight, tiny little subject area is the key to getting your work published in those leading international journals. So we train students in the UK to think about their message. What is the message of your research? What is it that you would explain to your grandmother, for example, about your study outcome? That's one of the keys to being successful, planning your research and getting it published in those big leading international journals. Having a clear, understandable message that other people outside of your own subject area are going to understand. My father, back in England, he worked for many, many years as an atmospheric chemist. He published some papers on the physics of the atmosphere, atmospheric reactions. He never made that connection in his research career between his own specific subject area and the bigger picture, climate change. He says to me all the time, Gareth, if I'd figured out that my research was relevant to this bigger picture, I would have been able to publish much more often in those bigger international journals. So think about your readers, think about the message. You're doing excellent research. You have great questions that you're answering with your research work, but why is your research relevant to that bigger, wider, international, multidisciplinary audience? And if editors at big international journals can't work out your take-home message, the single message of your paper, they will reject it before they send it out for peer review. They will reject your paper if you don't convince them that your paper is important. Editors think, is this interesting for my readers? Are my readers going to find this paper interesting? They have different motivations as to why they want to publish articles in their journals than you do as an author. Remember that graph that we looked at a little bit ago earlier in this presentation? Authors care about citations. They care about readers. They care about impact. Editors at big international journals care only about readers. They want people to download. They want people to read those papers. They think if I'm interested, then my readers will be interested as well. So for that reason, when submitting papers to international journals, you need to have a clear message. You need to have a reason why your work is interesting. So this feeds into journal selection, something that we don't have a great deal of time to talk about this evening, but nevertheless, I strongly recommend that before you sit down and start to write your next paper, before you start to hammer away on the computer, you think about your message. You think about your audience, which journal are you going to send the paper to, and you think about your structure, your writing structure. Effective journal selection, which journal will you pick, is one of the most important choices that you make as a researcher, that you make as an author. Lots and lots and lots of successful international researchers, they don't begin the writing process, they don't start to write their papers until they've picked a target journal. So you can do this as well. You can think, I've finished a research project, I'm ready to start writing it up. Which journal am I going to pick as my target journal? Don't start to write until you have that target journal in mind. So we can help with this. Think about where you're going to get the work published. Which impactful international journal will you choose for your submission? Make inquiries to editors. Write to editors before you begin the paper writing process and say, hey, I finished this piece of research, will it be interesting for your journal? You can write to 20, you can write to 30 international journals. It doesn't matter. You can write to as many as you want with those pre-submission inquiries. I'll give you a template over email at the end of our session this evening so that you can do this as well. Talk to colleagues, talk to others, write to editors. You may get back some positive responses. You may get back some emails from editors saying, hey, yes, absolutely, please do send your paper to us. And so that's a great strategy for picking a journal at the beginning of the process. So researchers tend to think about impact factor. They want to publish their work in journals that have decent impact factors. They want to publish their work in journals that have good reputations, of course. Other researchers are going to be able to read those papers. The journals have to have a reach within the field. And so often international researchers, you and me, we want our papers to appear in journals that have access, that are open access, that other researchers can download and get access to without any problem. So these are the issues, the factors that authors around the world take into account when picking a journal: impact factor, reputation, reach within the field, and open access. These are things that we'll come back to and talk about in a bit, but you are going to select a journal for your next research paper that has the best possible impact factor. If you're confused about that, get in touch with us. We can help you with that process at Edance, choosing appropriately, and we can help you to sell and manage your submissions to those international journals to make sure that you maximize the potential of your research. Authors, as I've mentioned, tend to want their papers to come out as fast as possible. We want speed. We want a decent impact factor. We want those journals to have a listing. We want them to be as good as possible. And we want as many people as possible to be able to read our papers when they get published. So speed, reach and readership, and impact factor are the things that international authors think about when they think about where to submit their papers. So people ask us all the time, how can I write a highly cited article? How can I do that? How can I make sure that my paper has the best chance of being as highly cited as possible? So there are some rules, there are some suggestions, there are some tips that we can provide you for doing this. Try to solve a big practical question with your research. That's what I talked about before. Make your research questions as big and interesting as possible. Think big. Publish with researchers who contribute and complement your knowledge. Publish in English, but you can always, of course, put your work in your own language, in Arabic, in whatever language you speak, onto a preprint server as well, so that people, researchers, colleagues in your own local area, in your own country, can read it as well. There's no problem with publishing your work in one language on a preprint server and then publishing it in an international peer-reviewed journal in English. So talk about your work. Okay, this is very important. It's a problem, I know, for international researchers for whom English is not their first language. But again, we are here to help. The point of these presentations, the point of these workshops is to help you and give you support and guidance to and ideas to help you get your work into those leading international journals. Accessibility. Can other users access your content? Does your journal publicize its content? Are other readers perceiving that you are an expert in your field? These are key issues to consider as a researcher when thinking about which journal to publish in. And when I think about academic journals, I think about jazz music. I think about that as a way of explaining the different kinds of journals that we have at the moment in the publishing industry. We have traditional journals, traditional jazz. We have those traditional journals that publish for free. They don't charge the author, they don't charge the university, they don't charge the institution, but these are the old traditional journals that we've all experienced. We've all walked down to the library and flicked through the pages of a journal that contains content. This content is sold to universities for a fee. So we've also all been in that position where we've tried to access a paper that somebody's published and we can't download it. We can't get the PDF because our university, our institution, our country maybe doesn't have a subscription to that particular journal. This is the traditional model for academic publishing. On the other hand, we have the open access model, the gold open access model, where content that you publish in a journal is free for anyone to download. That's open access, that's gold open access as it's called, but there's a cost. And who's going to pay that article processing charge to get the paper free, accessible to everybody online? Publishers control the industry. They have to make money, unfortunately. So gold open access is the other side of the coin. Lots of publishers have gotten on the wagon. They've gotten on the boat with this. They offer a transformative way of publishing. So I might publish a paper in Nature, for example, a traditional journal, but I can still pay a fee, an article processing charge, to make that paper open access. And that's called the green open access model. So these are the kinds of journals that we, broadly speaking, have access to in the publishing industry at the moment. The old style traditional ones, or the fully open access ones, or the so-called green hybrid ones in the middle, where you publish in a traditional journal, but you then pay a fee to have your paper converted to open access. People worry about this journal selection. We're doing all the work. Academics are writing all the papers, doing all the peer review, working as editors. Why should the publishing companies make all the money? This is a common complaint that people make about the publishing industry. I totally agree. Gold versus green open access. Most people want to get their papers published in open access journals, but who's going to pay for that experience? It's an issue. It's something I'm sure we'll talk about in our Q&A at the end of this presentation. But nevertheless, when you think about publishing your papers, selecting journals for your articles, you don't have to just send your papers off to journals blind. You can talk to editors. You can make pre-submission inquiries. You can do that for as many journals as you like at the beginning of the process. You can select a target journal effectively at the beginning of the process. You can reach out to 20, 30, 40 different target journals, as I mentioned before, with an email, send them the title, send the editor the abstract if you have it, and say, hey, would this paper that I'm working on, that I'm thinking of writing, be suitable for publication in your journal? And you may get back some favorable responses. We teach from experience. I've published almost 300 papers over the course of my career. There are lots of tricks and techniques that you can have a go at using in your own academic publishing career to make sure that you have the best chance possible of getting your work into those international journals. So before you begin to write, think about your message. What is it that you want people reading your next paper to get out of that experience? Your readers are the most important people in the academic publishing process. We don't write papers so we can give them to our parents and stick them on the wall and give them to other people as presents. We write academic papers so that other people will read them and cite them. Readers, the users of your academic work, are the most important people in that process. So, what is your message? Who are your audience? Where are you going to submit your next paper to? What will your target journal be, and the structure of your writing? Message, audience, and structure are the three key things to think about before you begin the writing of your next paper. And I also, in this process, of course, encourage you to reach out to international colleagues, talk to people around the world in your subject area, build those mentorship networks, as we call them in English. So you have a network of international colleagues working in your subject area. You have one already. You just don't call it a mentorship network. But these are the people who you talk to on email, on WhatsApp, on Facebook, in your subject area, who can become peer reviewers of your papers in the future. Are international colleagues aware of you and aware of your work? How can you make yourself more visible internationally? Maybe using preprint servers, maybe getting an ORCID ID, maybe talking about your work, maybe having a website. These are all very important things to think about as you think about how to publicize your research, how to build impact. Effective writing and submission is a trick. You can think about how you can maximize the scholarly impact of your research by thinking about the academic impact of your work, who's going to read it, who's going to cite it, but also what difference does your research make to the lives of ordinary people. More and more governments around the world are emphasizing this when they look at assessing universities. They look at assessing academic performance. They don't just care about which journals you publish your work in. They also care about what difference your work is making to the lives of ordinary people. Who are the taxpayers? Who are the people paying for your research after all? So it's very well worth thinking not just about the journals in which you publish your research papers, but what is the difference? What economic, what societal benefits is your research having to the lives of ordinary people? This is critical these days as we begin to build our profiles as academics. So are you on Google Scholar? Are you using an ORCID ID? If you're not, you probably should. Are you able to search for papers on Scopus, on Web of Science? Are you aware of what's going on in your field? Are you building a profile as an international researcher? It's so important to do that, to talk about your research, to know how you can talk about your research. On ResearchGate, on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, which is a profile platform, a social networking service that I use all the time, on Instagram, on WeChat, which is our Chinese main channel, for example. So are you making people around the world in your research area aware of your research? I give you this as a template. Next time you build a research project, I encourage you to think about how you can think about your research as a journey. Most academics do their research in isolation. They hide away from the world, they publish papers, and then sometimes they talk about those papers after the papers get published, after the work is appearing in those international journals. You have to be much more communicative as a researcher. Think about your research as a journey that you can talk about with other people on your websites, on your blogs throughout the whole process, your inputs, your activities, your outputs, your outcomes, and your impacts. How great would it be if you wrote a grant application and you included this kind of thing in that application? You are showing people how you are planning your research from beginning, from conception, all the way through to those outcomes and impacts at the end of the day. So we encourage researchers to plan for engagement. Researchers these days are engaging with the public much more than ever before, but most researchers like me and maybe like you have no idea how they benefit the people that they interact with. We have to think about planning our research for public engagement. How are you going to communicate your message? How are you going to show people that your work makes a difference to the lives of ordinary people? So we communicate, we learn to talk about our research, we evaluate the design, our engagement with the public and with policy makers. And this is effective research planning. This is effective engagement. So what attention, what interest, what desire, what kinds of actions does your research generate? What shares, what mentions, what clicks, what views, what downloads, what press coverage, and citations, of course. Most researchers think about citations at the end of the journey, but this is a whole picture. When you plan your next research project, I encourage you to think about the whole of that journey. And we can tell stories. We can talk about our lives, our research, what we're doing in stories to engage with people, to get people interested in our research. Most academics, most students, most researchers think about very narrow trajectories for their research. They think about very narrow stories. They think just about their own particular research area. You should think broader. Think about why your work makes a difference. Why is your work interesting? Why is your work important? I give you my favorite fantasy fiction author. This is an English storyteller, a man called Terry Pratchett. He was a guy who developed a whole universe of stories around life on the back of a giant tortoise. It's fantasy fiction, but nevertheless, I learned some very important lessons about writing from this gentleman. People expect to hear from your writing what they think that they already know. Research writing is no different. You have to make sure that when people get to the end of your papers, they feel that they agree with what it is that you're saying. They get to the end of the paper, they think, I expected that. I agree with that. I think that's the right answer. So you build your research projects incrementally. You talk about small steps. You don't give people unexpected results that they don't think necessarily are correct. You build in small increments. Research writing is mostly incremental, building on research, things that people already know. If you've tried to get a large step forward published in the academic literature, you're gonna know this already, because reviewers, editors, they think, that's not what I expected. I don't think that's necessarily the correct answer. So I'm not going to give that such an easy time in the review process. So we spend a lot of time working with authors around the world, training them to prepare to write, to think about their papers in terms of structure. Remember, your message, your audience, your target journal, and your structure are key things to think about before you begin the writing process. And academic papers actually have two parts to them. They've got two different sections. They've got a title and an abstract. That's one section. And they've got the rest of the paper. That's the second section, because your title and your abstract perform quite a different function in the communication process, in the publishing process, than the rest of the paper. Your title and your abstract, they're the windows to the work. Those are often all that people read. So think about that when you next put together a paper. Are you writing an effective title? Do you have something that's short, something that's eye-catching, something that gets people interested in your work? The abstract, is it well written? Is it well structured? Does it contain all of the necessary information about your study? That's very important as a starting point. So what makes a great title? A good title for your next paper should be short. Get the most important words into the title to capture people's attention. Keep it short, identify the main issue, talk about your subject, be accurate, unambiguous, specific, and complete, and don't use words that people outside your field don't understand. Don't use infrequently encountered abbreviations. Attract people's attention with the title of your next paper. Very, very important. Concise, informative, entice people. Attract them, allure them, get them thinking, I want to read this paper. I want to learn more. I want to find out the answer to that research question. It's very important to work on your title. Keep it short. Effective English, of course, is short and simple. Keeping it short and effective is the best approach for your English writing. And similarly, in the abstract, you are going to be honest and precise. You're going to have something that stands alone, no technical jargon, short and specific. Get all of that information about your paper into the abstract, because when was the last time you read all the way through an academic paper? I know for me, it was not that, it was many years. Most people don't read the whole of an academic paper. They just read the title and they just read the abstract. And that, of course, applies to editors as well. So you need an effective title, you need an effective abstract. Many journals base their decisions on what to do with papers on the abstract alone. And of course, most authors write their abstracts in a rush, almost as an afterthought. This has to be concise, very clear message, accurately reflecting the contents of your paper. If you struggle writing an abstract in English, you can do it using what we call the 4-question technique. Very simple, very easy. Write down these 4 questions and then answer them with text relevant to your own study. Why did you do the work? What did you do? What did you find? And what did you conclude? Why did you do it? What did you do? What did you find? And what did you conclude? The 4-question-based technique for an effective abstract in English. Delete the questions and you end up with about 100, 150 words that you can use as the basis for your next academic paper. So, message. What's your message? What's your take-home message? What is it that you want people to get out of your study when they read your paper? Which journal are you going to send your paper to? And what will the structure of the writing be? It sounds simple. It sounds so basic. You're thinking, why is he telling me this? I already know this. But you'd be amazed, you'd be surprised, you'd be flabbergasted, you'd be shocked how many papers we deal with, how many papers we read where authors have just sat down at their computer and started to write. They haven't planned the process properly. They haven't thought about their message. They haven't thought about their audience, and they don't have a good idea of the structure of their writing. And so this is how we can help. If you've enjoyed this presentation, you want more, we can always, anytime, provide further training, more detailed training on the writing and publishing of papers in English. Your structure is crucial. Readers like watching a movie, like watching a film, like reading a detective story, like reading a novel, like reading a book. They've got to know where they've come from, where they are now, and where they're going. It's so important to have that structure. Writing an academic paper is no different to any other kind of creative writing. You need a plot, you need a story, you need to help people and guide them through the structure of your writing. So we provide training in preparation, getting into the right mindset for writing, identifying your topic, your audience, gathering all that supporting information before you begin. And I can give you in future presentations, I hope this one's been useful as a taster, as a first step towards a future relationship as we work more together and provide more training for you, for your universities, for your institutions, for your country, for your associations, how to prepare to write, how to sell yourself to journals, to capture editors' attention, how to write with a clear structure, and how to be effective in your English language communication, writing and publishing your papers in international journals. Thank you so much for your attention. I'm Gareth. You can find me at the EdAnts Learning Lab, learning.edants.com. You can get in touch with us at any time. We are always available to help you with your writing and publishing experience, your journey in English in the future. Thank you so much for your time and for your attention. And Mohammednour, thank you for the invitation to give this presentation this evening. It's my great honor and my first visit, albeit virtually, to Sudan, to Khartoum. Thank you again. Wonderful. And I hope that I'll be able to visit one day in person. Thanks for your attention and the opportunity to give this talk this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If anyone have any question, write in chat. Mr. Wishah, you heard me? Thank you very much, Mr. Grace, for this chance. Really, and all participants in this webinar. And also, I want to say we very enjoy as soon to visit Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to do this. It's been
okay.
a great opportunity for me, and yeah, fantastic.
We have a question here.
Okay.
Mr. Say if somebody write papers and publish in English papers, and he also can publish in Arabic.
If somebody writes a paper in English, can they also publish in Arabic?
Yes.
Yes. Well, you can't publish the same content in a peer-reviewed journal in 2 languages. You can't publish a paper in Arabic in a peer-reviewed journal and then translate that into English and publish it again in a peer-reviewed journal, but you can publish on preprint servers. You can publish in Arabic on a preprint server and then publish again the same content in English in a journal. So it depends on what you mean by publish, but more and more people are using preprint servers these days. And I can give you lots of information. If you get in touch with me, I'll put my email into the chat in a moment. But preprint servers are online repositories, online places where you can put your research ideas, your drafts, your manuscripts before they go to journals. So using preprint servers, you can publish your work, your ideas in as many languages as you like. It's just that the final peer-reviewed, citable version that comes out in a peer-reviewed journal has to be just published once. Doesn't matter what language, but just once. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have 2 chances. Mr. Nadir first.
Okay.
Mr. Nadir. Mr. Nadir.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Mr. Grace, for your nice lectures. Really, we are very benefit about the great lectures and give us the highlight about how to write in the correct ways for publications. Really, many people who are beginner asking about what is the difference between open access journal, which we call it green, and other golden. What is the difference between golden open access journal and green open access journal? Okay. And also, you know, all the beginner researcher who want a publication, any kind of a good and seeking about high impact factor, they always try to begin with high impact factor journal like New England Medicine Journal to try to publication, and then they easy to reject it there because they do not. They needed a lot of experience to help them to make a kind of a good publication. So what your short list for give advices for who are people are in a hurry? They want to accept their journal quickly as soon as possible, because we have a problem, and also what is a kind of program, most of the journal, they need a kind of plagiarism. So but because as you know, Sudan country have no license for still have no license for many program free for plagiarism. So many people, they want to publish and have good scientists in the Sudan, but the problem, they have no program softening for plagiarism. What also your advices about your experience, Mr. Grace, about this advice? So thank you very much.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for that's like
Nader.
three different questions, I think. Let's deal with the first one. The difference between a gold open access journal and a green open access journal. A gold open access journal is a journal that publishes only open access papers for a fee. Okay, so think about PLOS, Frontiers, BMC, MDPI, scientific reports, like journals that only publish open access papers for free, for a fee. Okay, so all of the papers published in a gold open access journal are open access. They're free and available to everybody, but it costs somebody, the authors, the institutions, to put those papers there. So that's a gold open access journal. A green open access journal is a traditional journal like Nature, like Science, like the BMJ, like the Lancet, like, name your journal. Traditional journals, which would normally be free to publish in, no cost to publish in, but not everybody has access to that content. But you can pay the publisher, you can pay the journal if you want, as an author, to make your paper free and open online, free and open access online. So these are also called hybrid journals. Sometimes most traditional journals are also green open access journals, because you have the option to make that payment if you want as an author. So for example, if I publish a paper in Nature, would be great, but if I have the chance to publish a paper in Nature, I don't have to pay for that. But not everybody around the world can access that paper for free, because not every university has that subscription. I can pay as an author if I have the money. The charge in big journals like Nature is several $1,000, $10,000 at the moment in these big journals. But that's what a green open access journal is. Your other question was about plagiarism and having access to plagiarism checking software. That's something that we should talk about, actually, because our company, EdAnts, we can provide you with access to plagiarism checking software packages. So that's something that we should talk about. You can see my email in the chat box. We can talk about that, because we have a license with Authenticate, we have a license with Turnitin. We can help you to check your papers in the future. And your other question was about choosing a good journal, right? Choosing the best journal possible. Is that right? Do I remember your middle question correctly?
Thank you, Mr. Dr. Hind.
Yes, hello. Thank you for this workshop. And I have a question. What does empirical research mean? The second question, if the journal asks about English review, and I have this review with the journal itself, they have this service. And after that, they ask about minor English correction.
Yeah. So that's very unfortunate, the second part of that question, because you've paid, or you've sent your paper for review for English language correction, and that's not being good enough for the journal. So you should have a certificate. You should work with a company that provides
they give the certificate, and I send them.
Yeah, so I mean,
what can I do after that?
well, you have to send the paper back to the company that did the editing work for you and show them the comments that came from the journal. Show the editing company the comments that came back from the journal and ask them to check your paper again. You're not going to pay for that, of course, but they should be doing that.
Yes, thank you.
The whole point of these editing services, like the editing services that we provide, is that you won't have to do any more work on the language after you get the paper checked by the editing service. So again, like, please get in touch with me. I can help you with that. Specifically, what was your first question? What was it? Was about a specific kind of
what is the meaning of empirical research?
Empirical research.
Yes.
That just means that's empirical is a synonym of quantitative. So it means research that's numerical, research that's testing a hypothesis in a numerical, in a quantitative way. So something that can be measured. Empirical means measurable or quantitative. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Sure, of course. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Mr. If anyone have another question, you can send an email. Mr. Grace send email in chat.
Okay.
We have just one chance.
Give Dr. Tajid.
Thank you very much, Dr. Grace. How with you? Hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Gareth, for this is very nice and formative presentation for us. My question is, please, in synopsis or very short words, please, what is the difference between Q1, Q2, or Q4 or Q3 of journals? What is the benefits of each of these journals?
Okay, yes, these are journal quartiles. They're basically impact factors. So the Q1 journals have low impact factor. It's just the differences are measured by impact factor. Okay, so Q4 journals are the ones with the highest impact factor. So it's just another way of looking at the ranking of journals, international journals. So I can send you a list of all of the journals with the different rankings by quartiles, if that's of interest to you. So please do also get in touch afterwards. But that's my short answer to that question. But thank you for it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gareth.
Thank you, Mr. Gareth, for this chance. We are very lucky today to sharing this webinar for good chance for all participants. I'm very sad to finish this webinar, and if we have two personal here, upper hand, we can give chance for Mr. Dr. Samir. Samahir, sorry, Samahir. Dr. Samahir.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you, Mr. Gareth. And actually, I haven't the chance to attend the webinar from its beginning, but I will try to make my question as short as I can. My question is it important to make a whole research before writing a scientific paper? Or I can just write, like, I can state my opinions and then giving evidence and quotations to support it without making a research. That's it. And the second question, is the structure of the research supposed to be written in like introduction, abstract, method, and conclusion, or we can just write without using that method?
Okay, yeah, great questions. I mean, you can always make comments on research. You can publish short articles, you can publish short commentary pieces. So absolutely, you can write short articles, write short commentary pieces that just give your opinion, but you need to find a journal in your field that publishes those kinds of reports, those kinds of commentaries. So the answer to your first question is absolutely, you don't have to do a whole load of research and test a hypothesis to publish a commentary paper, but you do need to find a journal that will be interested in publishing that kind of short commentary. So it depends upon your field, and it depends upon what kinds of journals are publishing in your field. So so the answer to your first question is, of course, you don't have to do like a whole research hypothesis testing, a standard piece of research to publish a short commentary. And of course, at the same time as well, like it depends upon your field when it comes to answering your second question, like, do you have to structure your paper with the introduction, the methods, the results, the discussion, the conclusions, that IMRAD academic paper structure? Well, in most STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medicine, if you're writing a paper that's testing a question, which is of course the standard kind of academic article that most STEM practitioners, most STEM researchers would be writing, standard research article, then that's the usual format that most international journals would follow. But again, it depends on your subject area, it depends on your topic, as to whether you would need to write your papers in that particular way. But again, like if you get in touch with us afterwards, we can help you with your specific research writing and publishing questions. So thank you for that great question. I hope I answered it satisfactorily somehow. Thank you for the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garis. We have also two questions. You can answer?
Of course, of course, of course.
Mr. Nahla, Miss Nahra, sorry. Dr. Nahla. Okay. Dr. Muhammad Abdul Karim. Muhammad.
Hello.
Hello.
First of all, I just want to thank all and thank you for nice and very nice and interesting workshop. I don't have any more question. I just want to thank you, and I will help you to continue as.
Thank you, sir. It's very nice of you. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to have this opportunity to do this presentation this evening. My voice is going, unfortunately.
Yeah, we know that. Sorry about that.
It's all right. No, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and we will hope you in the early future we can see you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being so kind.
Thank you also. Tayyip.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Grace, for a nice presentation. My question, you can explain what the effective tools or program used for plagiarism and what the percentage allowed for any paper?
Oh, okay. So that's a great question, very common question. So international journals are looking for less than 10% similarity in terms of plagiarism checking when compared to other papers. Okay, so the similarity percentage has to be less than 10% when you run your work through Authenticate, when you run your work through Turnitin. Okay, so those are the two big international pieces of software that journals use, publishers use to check the work that gets submitted to their journals. So if you submit a paper to an international journal, it will get checked by the journal editorial office for plagiarism automatically. It happens with almost every submission that comes into a journal. If the submission scores more than 10% similarity on a score, then you're going to get your paper rejected. So that, I hope, answers your question. 10% or less is what you're aiming for in terms of similarity score. Okay, so thank you for that question.
Thank you, Dr. Case. Thank you so much. Thank you.
دكتورة هدى.
Assalamu alaikum for all. Thank you very much, Prof. Gers, about the presentation, nice presentation, and inshallah, collaborative another workshop in the next time, inshallah. Thank you very much all participants. ونوريكم أنه في open free access in dance شغال فيها بروف جيرز لكل المشاركين. إن شاء الله نشر مجاني، نرسل لكم اللينك بإذن الله تعالى. شكرا. نقدم بروف مريود.
Okay, السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام دكتور.
Thank you very much, Dr. Garis. This is a very nice chance to have you here. And then on behalf of our three organizations, that is SIDRA and Sudanese Foundation Researcher, we would like to thank you for this chance. And then also I would like to say that this is a good chance for us to have a sort of collaboration.
I hope.
You see that it is a chance to have a collaboration with you and with your organization also instead of doing scientific research or a collaboration in scientific writing or in scientific, even in a sort of correction and so on, because you have a very nice experience, a long experience, and that is really very, we would like to do something like this. You see here in our organization, in SIDRA, just we have almost around 1,000 scientists. Some of them have a good experience, others are beginners, and others are immediate. And if you go to SFR, that is a lot of scientists there also. So now it's the platform here. It is a chance for us and for you also to have a great collaboration, because this is, in this platform, we have a lot of scientists, we can collaborate. The most important thing, sometimes we need to have a collaborator in scientific research to apply for grants for research. You see, nowadays, any grants, if you would like to apply, you have a partner from different country. And this will be very interesting if you can share your knowledge and we can share your experience also in this field.
It would be our pleasure to help and to collaborate.
Yeah, because we have a lot of chances for, exactly for New Sudan now. We have a good chances for collaboration in scientific project and so on. So it's a chance for us also to have you as a collaborator in these scientific research projects. The other things also, we can collaborate with your organization. Later on, you can come and give us another talk to be very specific in a certain way. For example, how we can reduce similarity, or how can we reduce plagiarism and so on. Or I think we have many ways we can collaborate. So I would like, on behalf of this three organization, I would like to thank you very much. And then you are welcome again and again, and thank you. I also would like to thank all the participants, my colleagues, for attending. And we have apologized for the others if they didn't find the contact, if they didn't find a chance to attend this very important lecture. Thank you, Dr. Gary.
Thank you for the opportunity to do this. And I want to thank Wishah Mohammednour for the opportunity. He invited me to do this. So thank you very much to him. And I look forward to working together in the future, both myself and with Ed Anson, we provide like lots of tools and lots of content for your participants on our website that you can access now. I sent a link. Mr. Wishah has that link also. We provide free access now for all of your colleagues to our Learning Lab website and resources. So thank you for the opportunity.
بروف مريود ممكن تختم. بروف مريود.
Hello, you hear me?
Yep, I hear you.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. That's a good chance, Dr. Garis. I would like to thank Dr. Wishah for this nice opportunity, and then who is inviting you for this lecture. I think it's a very nice chance to do so. And then on behalf of all our participants and our organization, would like to thank you again, and then I would like to see very effective collaboration in the future, inshallah. Thank you very much for the all.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I'll sign out now, and good evening to everybody.
Yeah.